Oh, muy bien. Y bueno, sí, buenos días. Buenos días. Buenos días, buenos días. Es el 19 de julio. It's June 19th. Yes, registration for fall comes up on the 26th. I'm looking at my calendar behind my screen. El 26th of July will be the first day to register. I strongly recommend online, as it is way easier than going into a center and doing that. And thank you, gracias, gracias. It does say for our class 10 o'clock instead of 9:30. I'm probably going to start at 9:30 anyway, so that you know, para que sepan, if there's a huge problem with anybody doing 9:30 as opposed to 10 o'clock, even though I know it says 10 o'clock, then let me know. But registration does start on Monday. And since it's on Zoom, there is no rush to, oh my God, the class will fill, because there's no problem with that. It will be, but I do suggest online, as it is less of a hassle to do so if you're going to register. Also, the other thing I need to tell everybody about fall. Fall is the odd thing. They took this out last fall, but this fall it's back in. Because we have snowbirds who come back at various times in the fall, if you want to register for fall, you have to register once and then again. I know it sounds weird, but that's why they have two listings. The reason they have two listings for the same class is that fall is split into two sessions. It is the only season that does that. So we've got from September to Halloween, and then November to the end of December. So there are actually two fall sessions. Registration for both begins on the 26th, next week, Monday. So just so you're advised of that. It's a little, you know, it's an extra thing for you to do, I know. But they do that because so many people come back November 1st, and they don't want people to register for fall and they say, oh, I won't register for fall because I'm not going to be here till November 1st. And then they lose folks. So that's why that happens.
Is it going to be the same class like beginner step 2?
Same class, sí, exacto, okay. Exactly right. Okay, so alguna pregunta, any questions about that with registration before we start up? If you do, let me know. Okay, lo que vamos a hacer, what we're going to do, after we take your initial questions from the novela reading, if you have any, we're going to dive into, we're going to do a little more practice with this también, tampoco, with some prompts. They're going to be prompts, and we're not going to do it in small group. We're going to do it in large group, because I'm going to show you some photo prompts. So we're going to work that for a little while, maybe 10, 15 minutes, not forever. And then we're going to do a deep dive into using reflexives and practicing with some listening with reflexives, with some short exercise, and then with some, again, photo prompts, speaking and talking about things you see on screen with reflexives. I hope we get into, I hope to carve out enough time at the end of class, towards the end of class, to work some special reflexive verbs that don't follow that daily routine handle, but that are super, super common. So that's what I plan for today. And always feel free to interrupt and give me your questions. Es muy importante. Ok, a ver. Bueno, vamos a ver. Novelitas. Any questions from your little chapter reading, novelitas? And make sure you take yourselves off of mute if you have a question. Have a question on a structure or vocabulary, or probably there isn't going to be a great deal with cultural references for these questions, but sometimes people surprise me. So any questions from the reading?
think so.
Okay. Yeah.
All done.
And you're kind of getting used to seeing things like, you know, le dice, right? And you're probably even seeing a few little reflexives, even if it's just for se llama, which is something. But if you've got anything marked off, I know some of you are still checking through your notes or your chapter.
Yeah, there was one about the Ben se sienta. That's one we talked about, right? He sits down.
Se sienta is
sienta.
something, and I'm going to put it in the chat box so that you can see it. So turn on your chat box. La pregunta es, the question is that little mini sentence there, Ben se sienta. Correcto? Is that right?
Yeah.
Señora, okay, bien. Ben se sienta means Ben sits down. The se sienta literally means he seats himself. But when you translate that into English, nobody would ever say seats himself because people would look at you kind of funny. That's not the way we phrase that. Okay, it literally does mean he seats himself, as opposed to a maitre d' showing him into a restaurant and seating him, or an usher at a theater seating you, showing you where you, okay? So se sienta means he sits down. And you'll start to notice that some of these reflexives that we're going to work later today, some of them are just, you know, okay, wash your hands, get up, wake up, go to bed. But a lot of times in English, you can inject like a little preposition is what it winds up meaning, like sits down. Down is a direction, right? If you want to say fall down, again, that's reflexive. If you want to say go away, the away makes it reflexive. You're going to start to notice this. So se sienta is sits down, but if we changed it, and this is one of the things we're definitely going to talk about today, if you change it this tiny little bit, look at the chat box again, from ben se sienta to ben se siente, the verb is totally a different verb, even though they're only different by one letter. Because sentarse is to sit down, an AR verb, but sentirse, an IR verb, is a different verb, even though they're only different that one way. Ben se siente means he feels a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's pretty common to say somebody feels guilty, somebody feels happy, somebody feels like they don't know what's going on. We use feels a lot. And sentirse, which also has a stem change, that IE, but it's an IR verb, it's also reflexive. And we're going to have a special video just about that today. Okay. Bien. So those two verbs are like, wow, they're like almost the same. They're only really different by one letter, but they get different conjugations because one's an IR verb and one's an AR verb. Señora, does that answer your question? Mejor? Sí. But will we recognize it 100% of the time today? No, because it's going to take time. Claro que no. Okay. Bueno, ¿hay otra pregunta o no? No. Okay. ¿No? Bien. Okay. Vale. Muy bien, muy bien. Vamos a empezar. We're going to begin with a short, like 30-second recap before we do our practice on también and tampoco. And the like 30-second recap is going to be this reminder so that we remember, because for a lot of people, this is a thing that they find quite confusing. So we're going to share. I can't get my cursor to move. ¿Dónde está? Aquí está. Here it is. We're going to look at just snippets of this. We're not going to watch the whole thing again, but I want you to pay attention. We're going to be looking at the issue of using también and tampoco with some picture prompts. But before we do that, we're going to remind you, everybody, of what it means to use también and tampoco. And then we're going to talk also about what happens when we can't use those. Okay, so the reminder is, I hope I've got it the right part, this.
Both words are used to express agreement.
También and tampoco are both used to express agreement with somebody else. To say, yeah, me too, or yeah, him too. They're used for agreement, but, wait for it.
But in different situations. Tampoco is for agreeing to negative sentences.
So tampoco is for agreeing with negative statements. I don't like broccoli. I don't like to run. I don't like motorcycles. Oh, me either, me either, me either. I don't have pets. Oh, me either. Tampoco is for agreeing to a negative statement, okay?
And también is for agreeing to affirmative sentences.
So también is for agreeing to affirmative sentences, okay? I have pets. I like vegetables. I'm a meat eater. I like movies, okay? So también is for agreeing with affirmative sentences. Tampoco is for agreeing with negative statements of some kind. And the only reason we inject an a mí también or a mí tampoco is when you're using verbs like gustar, okay? So we're going to have two corollaries to this también and tampoco thing. The one corollary is yo también or yo tampoco is when we're using verbs that are regular verbs that go into all the different conjugations. But a mí también or a mí tampoco is for verbs that are like gustar. So that is a lot of verbs, but for conversation purposes, it's going to wind up being, you know, verbs like gustar, encantar, right? It's going to be a smaller group for conversational purposes. Okay, so that's our one little hump. Sometimes it's yo también or a mí también. Yo tampoco or a mí tampoco.
There is no direct translation
And
of
there's no
this
direct
word.
translation, but we're going to go through here to see something else, because the other little hitch we ran into was, wait a minute. What if we're disagreeing? We're not agreeing, we're disagreeing. And then we do something even a slightly bit different, and we're going to see what.
A Pablo no le gusta el
And
béisbol.
hang in there for it.
A mí tampoco. No me gustó la película. A mis amigos tampoco.
That's agreement. Hang on.
Nota importante acá. It might happen that you feel the temptation to use tampoco to express disagreement with something. And
So if you disagree, I have pets, and somebody wants to say, oh, I don't. That means disagreement. También and tampoco is when you're agreeing with the statement. I have pets. Me too. I have pets. I don't. That's disagreement. So hang in there, because sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we say, yeah, I'm in that boat. Sometimes we say, I'm not in that boat. Here is with the I'm not in that boat
This
situation.
is what might happen. Es de noche en Alemania. Aquí tampoco. Okay, so this will translate to it's nighttime.
So basically, if you're disagreeing, you won't be using también and tampoco. If you're disagreeing, we can't slide the también and tampoco in there. También and tampoco are only when we're agreeing. When we're saying, no, that's not true for me, we're not going to use también and tampoco. We'll do something else. Let's see what we do.
Whenever you need to express the opposite of a statement, use sí or no or
So if you're disagreeing with it and you're saying, oh, that's not my case, just use a sí or a no to make it easy. Okay? If you're disagreeing. Or you can give more information. He's going to show you how.
or even the opposite statement like day or night. Look at these examples. Es de noche en Alemania.
It's nighttime in Germany.
Aquí no.
Here, nope. Just use no. Aquí no. Not here. Yeah. Or you can give a longer explanation, which is what he gives here.
Aquí es de día.
Here it's daytime.
¿No te gusta bailar? Qué lástima. A mí sí. Las otras profesoras de Spring Spanish son mexicanas. Yo no. Yo soy venezolano.
Okay, so we're going to stop that there. That's just a little reminder that tampoco and también are when you agree with something, okay? But if we're not agreeing, then we're not going to use those special words. We're just going to say sí or no, right? And we're trying to use shorter phrases to agree or disagree. Let's see some examples. Algunos ejemplos con fotos. Con fotos. No me gusta, no me gusta la nieve, snow, the thing that is snow. No me gusta la nieve. No me gusta la nieve. If you want to say, I don't like it either, it's just
Me tampoco.
a mí
Tampoco.
tampoco. A mí
Tampoco.
tampoco.
A mí tampoco.
See? No me gusta, and it's a verb like gustar, so we need an a mí, right? Or me gusta, or no me gusta la nieve. No me gusta la nieve. A mí tampoco. A mí tampoco. Okay? A mí tampoco. Okay.
But if you like it, you just say,
a mí sí.
a mí, sí.
You want to disagree with that? A mí sí. I do.
Okay,
A mí sí.
not yo sí, because you
Not
started
yo
to
sí
make
because I
gusta.
use gustar, because I use gustar. Gustar falls into the
Okay.
a mí, a mí. Oh, por
Okay.
ejemplo, a mi esposo. No, I'm going to take it off of me, but I'm going to talk about what somebody else likes. A mi esposo no le gusta la nieve. A mi esposo, my husband. A mi esposo no le gusta la nieve. He does not like snow. You want to agree that it's dislike. A mí tampoco. A mí sí. Bien?
Yeah.
So we're going to give both ways. We're going to give both ways. Okay. A ver. And don't necessarily look at all the stuff written up there. Well, café. A mí me gusta el café. If you want to agree.
A mí tampoco.
A mí.
A mí tampoco.
Well, now.
Oh, a mí
mí
también.
también.
Cuidado.
También.
A mí
A mí
también. Sí. It's not a negative statement, is it? A mí me gusta el café. A mí también.
A mí también.
¿Sí?
Sí.
A mí me gusta el café. A mi hija, no. Disagree. A mi hija, no. A mi esposo, no. Okay?
Hmm.
We're doing short ways to agree or disagree. Fantástico. A ver. A ver.
Ah,
I'm not going to use gustar, guys.
Me encanta.
¿Cómo?
Me-
Me encanta el chocolate. Me encanta el chocolate.
A mí
y
también.
también.
A mí también. A mí
Mucho
también.
también.
Pero un poquito distinto, a little different. No como mucho chocolate. No como mucho. No como montones. Montones would be tons, ¿ya? No como montones de chocolate.
Yo tampoco.
Yo también.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco, sorry.
A negative statement.
Yeah.
No como. No como montones
Yeah.
de chocolate.
A mí
Sí, mi
Yo
como.
tampoco. Yo
Yo
tampoco.
tampoco.
Me either. Because comer is not a verb like gustar, right? So
Yeah.
when I come out with no como muchísimo chocolate, no como mucho chocolate. Yo tampoco. Yo tampoco, right? Yo tampoco.
A mí sí. A mí sí.
But yo sí. Yo
Yo
sí.
sí.
Yo sí.
Yo
Not
sí.
No.
Okay,
Okay,
no
so
gusta.
let's look at the difference with that. Again, we're going to take the encanta. Me encanta el chocolate. Me encanta el chocolate.
A mí también.
A mí también.
A mí también. A mí también. Me encanta is a verb like gustar. Me encanta el chocolate. A mí también. Okay? It's an affirmative statement. Me encanta. A mí también. Right? But now I'm going to use a verb that's not encantar, that's not gustar. I'm using comer.
Okay.
Ven la diferencia, ¿no? Ok, entonces, no como, I'm making a negative statement. No como mucho chocolate.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco.
Tampoco.
Yo sí.
Now, yo sí. If you say I do eat a ton of it, yo sí. Bien?
Yo
Got it.
sí, okay.
¿Entienden? ¿Entienden?
Ujú,
Okay,
sí.
so now don't let yourself get wrapped up in, oh my God, someone won't understand me. Actually, in that little video, he gave a very good thing. Somebody, if you say it wrong between the a mí tampoco or
Sí.
yo tampoco, if you say it wrong, he said it will sound like something out of Alice in Wonderland. And think of Alice in Wonderland and all the odd word combinations. It will sound out of kilter to them. Will they get it? Probably, but it will take a little bit. They'll have to think a little harder. Okay, we're going to take a look at something else. And I'm going to make this singular. Okay. No tengo un carro deportivo. No tengo un carro deportivo. I've
Yo
got a negative
tampoco.
statement.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco. I don't have a sports car. No tengo un carro deportivo.
No
Yo
tengo.
Mhm.
But
No.
you do have a sports car.
No también.
No, tampoco.
No, tam-
No, tampoco.
Sí, sí,
Yo
Yo
sí, yo sí.
Sí,
If you do
tampoco.
have one, if you do have one, yo sí.
yo sí.
Yo
That's your
sí.
answer, Diane? Yo sí.
Tampoco. No, no.
Yo tampoco. No tengo. Voy a darles, I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to give you guys, that's the list. Voy a darles más información. No tengo carro deportivo porque cuesta más
Sí.
Mm.
en
Más dinero.
seguros, en insurance.
Ah,
Con seguros, with insurance.
con seguros.
Cuesta más con seguros, ¿verdad? Sí.
Sí.
Bien. Okay, vale. Now I'm going to talk about not me, but somebody else. A los hombres, men. I'm going to talk about all men in general. A los hombres les gustan
Mhm.
los carros deportivos. Men like sports cars. It's kind of a sexist statement, but you know, in general, men have an affinity for sports cars. See, it's an
Sí.
affirmative statement. You know, whether or not you drive one is not the issue, but men in general like sports cars, whether or not they own it, right? So here's an affirmative statement.
A mí
A
no.
los hombres les
Mm.
gustan los carros deportivos.
A mí no.
Mm-mm.
A mí
Mi esposo
A mi
También.
esposo, a mi
también.
esposo también, my husband too. A mi esposo también.
A mi esposo también.
Because we're using gustar. A mi esposo también. Oh, my husband too. He likes them too. A mi esposo también. Me, not so much. A mí,
A mí.
no. A mí no.
a mí no.
A mí no.
A mí no.
Me
I
no.
want to disagree
A mí
with
no.
that. A mí
A
no.
mí no.
A mí no. Ok, vale. Bueno. A ver.
Los
Mis
frijoles.
a mis hijos les gusta la comida mexicana. ¿Sí? Ok. Mis hijos comen, no es el verbo, mis hijos comen muchos frijoles. Mis hijos comen muchos frijoles.
Mi hijo
Yo,
también.
A mí también.
Mi hijo
Now
también.
wait, I'm not
Ah.
using gustar. Mis
Gustar.
hijos comen
Comer.
muchos frijoles.
Yo
Mi
también.
hijo también.
yo,
Mi
sí,
hijo.
yo sí.
También.
Yo también, me too.
yo no.
¿Sí?
Mi hijo también.
Mi hijo también, my kid too, mi hijo también, exacto. So we can agree for different people, right? We can agree for ourselves. I probably can't agree for you,
A mí.
but I can agree for other people that I know. Mi hijo también, sí. Ok. Mi esposo come una dieta keto. Una dieta keto.
Mm.
Entonces,
Como.
él no. In a keto diet, you can't have beans. Él no. But because I'm disagreeing, see,
Ujú.
mis hijos, sí,
Comen.
mis hijos comen frijoles.
Me too.
Mi esposo, no.
No.
Mis hijos comen frijoles. Yo también. Mis hijos comen frijoles. Mi esposo no. Bien. So it's one thing if you agree, it's a different thing, right? If we disagree, we take out the tampoco. If we disagree, we take out the también. Okay. A ver. A ver. Bueno, clase. Tengo una familia muy grande. Tengo mi esposo tiene muchos hermanos. tengo muchos sobrinos, tengo 2 hijos, tengo una familia grande. Compro, I'm not using gustar, notice, compro muchos regalos de Navidad. Compro muchos regalos de Navidad. What if you want to agree with that?
Yo también.
Yo
Yo
también.
no.
Yo también.
Ujú.
Yo no.
Yo no.
No.
A mí no.
Not an a me because I'm talking compro.
Yo.
Ah,
No,
yo no.
Ah,
yo no.
Somebody may say, tengo una familia pequeña. Tengo una
Mm.
familia pequeña. Yo no. I don't. Bien?
A mí también.
Yeah.
Okay. Yo también. I buy them too. Yo también. Yo también. Vale. Bueno. A ver. El helado. ¡Ah! Me gusta el helado.
Mm.
Me gusta el helado.
a
Me
mí
gusta.
también.
A mí también.
A mí también. A mí también. A mí también. ¿Verdad?
A mí no.
A mí no.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué? Qué buena pregunta. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no te gusta? Hay personas que no pueden comer helado. There are people who cannot eat ice cream. ¿Sí? Bueno. ¿Es bueno el helado para la salud? For your health? No tanto. Not so much. No es tan fantástico el helado para la salud, pero, ya saben, you know how it is. Ok, a ver. Bien.
Las flores
Me
exóticas.
gustan las flores exóticas. Me gustan las flores
Yo
exóticas.
A mí
A mí
también.
A
también.
mí
A mí
también.
también, a mí también, a mí también. Okay. If my friend doesn't like them, a él no.
No.
A él no. A él no.
A él
Because I
no.
use gustar.
Amigo,
Because
no.
I used gustar. Bien. Okay. Hago un momento, algo distinto. A ver.
Los
No me gusta limpiar la cocina. No me gusta limpiar la cocina.
A mí
A mí
tampoco.
tampoco.
A mí tampoco. A mí tampoco.
Why not?
¿Por qué no? Porque me cuesta tiempo. It takes time. It costs me time. Me cuesta tiempo.
Trabajar.
Es trabajo. Es trabajo. No me gusta trabajar. Así es. Bueno, a ver. A ver. Por ejemplo, muy específico. Me gusta montar en bicicleta.
A mí
A mí
también.
también.
A mí también.
A mí también, but many people may not like riding a bike, and then
A mí sí.
a mí no,
no.
A mí
a
no.
mí no, a mí no.
A mí
But
no.
now I'm going to take it out of that nice, comfortable element of gustar, and I'm going to instead take the verb as montar, the actual action of riding. Monto en bicicleta mucho. Monto en bicicleta mucho.
Yo también.
Yo sí.
Yo,
Sí.
wait, you're agreeing. It won't
Yo
be yo
también.
sí.
Yo también.
Yo también.
Yo también.
If I don't, yo
No.
no.
No. Oh,
Yo no.
You
no.
Yo
No.
no. If you don't ride at all, yo no.
Yo no.
Monto en bicicleta mucho. Yo no.
Ujú.
Okay. Bien?
Sí.
Bien? Got the idea of that?
Mhm.
How that rolls? Okay. Bien. Next week, I want you to come in with some activity you do that people, you think other people are gonna maybe like to agree with. Come with two things, maybe one thing in one activity, whatever you want to do. You know, talk about something you truly like doing, reading, gardening, or something that you really don't like at all. You don't like the rain. You don't like summer. You know, well, you don't like the heat of summer, whatever. You may have to look up 1 or 2 words, but you shouldn't have to look up a lot, you know? But use wordreference.com and look up whatever verb that you like doing or thing that you enjoy, and you'll do just a few minutes next week agreeing or disagreeing with people in your group. And whether you agree or disagree is completely going to depend on how those people in your group feel, because that's how it is in real life. Bien?
Yeah.
Question.
Sí, dime.
Do you want us to do it in 2 form, like me gusta and the regular one? In each
You can use gustar, you can use a verb. So you might say you
Okay.
walk with your dog,
okay.
and somebody else doesn't, and that's not going to use gustar, right? You
Yep.
might say you travel to a certain state, and somebody else will say, I don't ever go there.
Mm.
Or you can use gustar. So what you use is up to you.
Okay.
Okay, bien?
Mhm.
Or you might say that, you know, you like tennis, whatever.
Mm.
People may agree with you, people may not do that thing because it's just not what they do. Bien? Okay.
And
Fantástico. Muy bien. We're going to move off of that for now so that we spend a good chunk of time on our reflexives. Okay, and I will send that video. We only saw the snippets of it to you again so that you can review that as you prep what you're going to talk about, because it always helps. And those are little 8-minute snippets. They're not hard. Okay. Momentito. All right, I've got to get my, please, question.
Us
And you froze up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Perdón.
last week.
Froze up again.
Oop, oop. Oop, okay. I can't, frozen up. Sorry about that. We'll come back to your question whenever you got it, whenever it comes back. Oh, coming back now? See?
I think. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, I just liked that homework sheet you gave us with the multiple choice questions, and that was really good.
Was that the one with Gustar? No, oh, that was with reflexives?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Bien.
like that.
Bien, gracias, thank you. Okay, muy bien. Reflexivos, so reflexivos, muy, en el sentido más común, in their most common use, because you do need to know that sometimes they won't be used in this way, but the way we introduce this is with the things that you do every day as a part of your routine, that you do something to yourself, okay? And we're going to tiptoe outside of that just a little bit today, once you get comfortable. So the way these are different from the other verbs is that with other verbs, you don't need to say a yo or a tú or a nosotros. Sometimes you don't even name the person. You might name the person you're talking about, but you know, you might not bother. At some point they'll drop it. So with regular verbs, we don't need a pronoun, but we do need a pronoun with these little reflexive verbs. So let's look at some verbs that are very, very commonly reflexive, that are often reflexive, and that often have to do with a thing that you do to get ready for your day or get ready for the evening. Okay, levantarse, to get up out of a bed or a seat. Despertarse, to wake up. Sentarse, to sit down. And notice we have to have, well, we don't. We can just say sit, right? But somebody might think you're talking to your dog, sit. Oh, sit down. We often use that word down, don't we? We often use that. We don't have to, but we often do. Ducharse, bañarse, peinarse, to comb your own hair, because you're not at the hairdresser where somebody's doing it to you, right? You're doing it to yourself. Cepillarse, to brush, whether it's teeth or your hair. Secarse, to dry off. When you dry off coming out of the shower, we haven't talked about this verb yet. Secar. Oh, the next time you get a nice bottle of wine, it says sec, S-E-C. That's what the French use. Yeah, it's a dry wine. Yeah. Secar is to dry, like if you dry your dishes or you dry your clothes. Yeah. Secar. But secarse is to dry yourself off. You're rubbing the towel up and down, folks. Yeah, it's that thing there, secarse. Lavarse is washing up, whether it's your hands or your face. Usually those are the most common ones, right? Acostarse, to go to bed. Maquillarse, to put makeup on yourself. Maquillar is what a, maquillar without the se is what a makeup artist does to the actors before they go on camera. That's maquillar. But maquillarse is to put on makeup, right? Lastimarse is to hurt yourself, meaning, well, of course, you didn't do it on purpose, but you fall down, you skin your knee, you walk off the a step wrong and you twist your ankle, right? That kind of thing, lastimarse. You bump into something and, you bruise yourself, it's lastimarse, right? Llamarse, to call yourself. Ponerse, to put some kind of clothing on. Oh, you know what? I'm even going to see, can I add? I can add. I'm going to add one thing on. I'm going to add an opposite for ponerse, and that is quitarse, to take off clothing. I'm going to see if I can extend my screen down a little bit here. Sí. Quitarse, the opposite of ponerse, is to take off. Like you take off your shoes, you take off a scarf, you take off your hat, right? Quitar is to take something away. To take away candy from a baby. To take away toys from your grandkids. That's quitar. But quitarse is to take an item off of your body. So these reflexive verbs are used so very frequently, right? When we're talking about this, lastimarse, see? Now, let me go back here. So if I want to use these kind of verbs, I've got to have these little pronouns in blue. I can't skip them. Okay, because llamo without the me means I'm calling somebody, either on the phone or hey, you, kind of call out. Llamo by itself is just call, but me llamo is my name is, I call myself. So with these reflexives, we cannot skip the me, the te, the se, the nos. And notice se is used twice. Yay. So if I'm talking about somebody else, whether they're a 1Z person or 2Z, 3Z, 4Z, 50 group, doesn't matter. It's always say, yay. Okay, so one less pronoun to know. Okay, let's see if we can use these. Oh, how would I use he's hurting himself? El, I'm going to have to do something with lastimarse. El
Se.
se
Mar.
Él se lastimara.
Él se lastima.
Lastima.
Lastimar.
Él se lastima. That's kind of a long verb, I know. Él se lastima. Oh my gosh, he's hurting himself. See.
Se lastimar.
I forget. I forgot. Me
Yo me olvido.
olvido. Me olvido. Me olvido.
Olvido.
I'm just throwing in some special verbs here. I just want you to try to
Me
use them.
olvido.
Equivocarse means to be wrong.
Nosotros no.
No, if we use it for nos,
Nos
equivocamos.
equivocamos.
We're just throwing out some new verbs here. Nos equivocamos. Bien. Yeah. You want to talk about, oh my gosh, he's dying. Se muere. Se muere. Oh, even with some verbs like complain, they're reflexive. Wow, those aren't like lavarse, but they are reflexive. Se quejan. They complain, right? Okay, we're going to switch out of this into some more, a little bit easier practice. Let's see how many of these we can do. I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Sí, claro. Okay, and they may throw some vosotros at us here. Ooh, calmarse, to calm yourself down. Chill out. This verb means chill out.
Me calmar.
If we want to talk about Sancho y yo, both of
No.
us, all of us together,
Nos calmamos.
nos
Calmamos.
calmamos.
Nos calmamos.
Bien. Oh, afeitarse is to shave.
Oh,
To shave.
Se
Me afectar. Afectar.
Se afeita.
afeta.
Se afeita. Shaves.
Afectar.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the old Western movies, guys would walk into the barber to get a shave, right? And not everybody does that anymore. You shave yourself, right? Se afeita. You put something on. Clothing or jewelry. Tú
Pones.
Te pones.
pones.
Te pones.
Gabriel is brushing his hair. Gabriel
Te
Eh?
pilla.
Cepilara. Cepilara.
Cepillar.
Cepilar.
se cepilla.
Yeah.
Se
Cepilla.
cepilla. And this is a little
Cepilla.
hard to just look at the
Yeah.
verb and automatically give it, isn't it? We have to take off that se first, right? We have to detach that se and it moves up front into whatever form it needs to be in, right? And then we're left with the cepillarse. So essentially we have to think of just like looking at cepillar now without the se on the end, right? Okay, se cepilla, bien? Diego y Mortadelo, what a name. They're getting up. Dos personas.
Nos levantamos.
Armos.
Se
Lavantar.
Se
levantan.
Se levantan.
Se levantan, because I'm not in the group. Yo is not in the group, so se levantan.
Se levantan.
Se levantan. Bien, okay. You guys are taking a shower. Ustedes?
Sí.
Duchan.
Se duchan.
Se duchan.
Se duchan. Se duchan. Bien. Asombrarse, to be surprised, to be astonished by something. I'm going to do this one. This is a long verb. Asombra.
Asombrar.
Se asombra. Oh, they're getting into some long ones here. We're going to shift out of this one. They're getting into some long verbs. Let's take a look at some of these, which I'm going to hope are shorter. Tú, you take a shower.
Que
Te duchas.
Te duchas.
Yes.
Bien, te duchas.
Duchas.
This one has them. Mi padre, dad shaves. My dad shaves. Mi padre.
Se
Se
afeita.
de padre
And I forgot, and
Se
I had a fat
afeita.
finger moment. there. Se afeta. Se afeta.
Afeita.
Oh, let's skip that one because, well, okay, that one I'm going to give you. Wow, they're throwing some long verbs in. Se enloquece. Goes crazy. That's kind of a complicated word. Oh, this is a useful one. To get sick.
Se enferma.
enferma
Enferma.
cuando como hongos.
This is a very useful verb.
Se enferma.
Enfermar is to sicken. Well,
To be sick.
but to get sick, you yourself become sick. It's a reflexive verb.
What is the hongo? Hongo.
Oh, hongos son mushrooms.
Oh,
Oh.
Ella se enferma cuando
mushrooms.
come hongos, when they eat mushrooms, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this to go practice more.
okay.
We're going to do 2 extra steps with this. We're going to do a step of listening to a short story with people using a lot of reflexives. And then we're going to create some narratives using reflexives, okay? So I previewed this, so that you're going to take a look at these, and sometimes they're going to throw out some verbs that like, oh my gosh, we didn't have this on our list, but they're just showing you this is like how many different verbs can become reflexive, okay? So we're going to morph out that. You're going to do that more on your own now that you kind of see how that works, okay? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? No. This one. Okay. A ver. Fácil. Oh, but I need to stop share. I need to switch screen because this is going to be on screen. Momentito. Okay. A ver. All right. So what I want you to do now is be a sponge and listen to the examples they're going to say to you. Trying to find where to. Ooh, have it. I'm trying to get this. Trying to get this into big screen. Aki, here we go. And now there's not going to be any, you're going to notice he's going to be talking about somebody called Francisco. So you're not going to see any mes here, right? But you are going to see some verbs that flip, that are reflexive and others that are not, because not all verbs are reflexive. And realistically in a conversation, people are going to mix regular verbs with reflexive verbs. So I want you to kind of notice this.
Francisco se levanta a las 8 de la mañana, se baña, se lava los dientes y se viste. A las 8:30 de la mañana, prepara su desayuno. Él desayuna café con leche y pan. A las 9 de la mañana, sale de su casa y toma el metro y llega a las 9:30 de la mañana a la universidad.
Okay, let's back that up. See that you understand what they're talking about with his daily routine. And let's see which ones are reflexive and which ones are not, because not all are. Francisco does what at 8?
Gets up. Se
He
levantarse.
gets up. Levantarse, sí, se levanta. He gets up. Se baña.
What?
Uh,
Bathe himself.
Washes
Takes a
himself.
bath. Yeah, he washes up. He takes a bath.
You can't see the teacher.
Yeah. Se lava los dientes.
brushes
Brushes
teeth.
his teeth.
He brushes his teeth.
In Mexico, a lot of people like to use lavarse for teeth. They just do, instead of cepillarse. He brushes his teeth. Se viste,
Gets dressed.
gets dressed. This is the verb that means gets dressed. Se viste, gets dressed. Okay, now we're going to tell another thing that's a routine, but it's not something he does to himself. He does what with his breakfast?
He prepares breakfast.
Prepares it.
He prepares breakfast. Prepara, we don't need a pronoun. It's not reflexive. What does he prepare? Not himself, just breakfast.
Coffee with milk
Yeah.
and bread.
And
He
bread.
eats breakfast and we tell what kind of stuff he eats.
Café au lait.
So just desayuna. Desayunar means to eat breakfast. He eats a breakfast of
Desayunar.
coffee with some
Milk.
and bread.
And
Okay,
bread.
so super simple breakfast. And now I'm talking about what he does. Sale de su casa,
He leaves the house.
He leaves the
leaves
house.
his house. That's not reflexive.
No.
Toma el metro.
Metro.
He takes
Takes
the
the
metro.
metro. He takes the subway. Llega.
Arrives.
He arrives. None of those things in that little sentence need reflexive. He's not doing it to himself. Okay, so notice we're going to flip back and forth between using reflexive and then not, depending on the situation.
Lectura en Ciudad de México.
Oh,
Su primera
momento.
clase estudiar a las 2.
Oh, momentito. I go a little too far.
Él termina de estudiar a las 2 de la tarde.
Okay, hang on. I'm still too far ahead.
Clase comienza. Estudia de la mañana a la universidad.
Okay,
Francisco estudia arquitectura en Ciudad de México. Su primera clase comienza a las 10 de la mañana. Él termina de estudiar a las 2 de la tarde y va con sus amigos a la cafetería para comer.
okay. Anything reflexive there?
No.
No.
No, because we didn't need
No.
it.
No.
He studies architecture. That's what he's doing. His first class starts or begins.
10
Comienza.
o'clock.
Comienza. I don't need to say. Termina de estudiar. He finishes studying at 2. Y va con sus amigos. And he,
Goes with
Goes
the
with his
bread.
friends
with
to the
his
cafeteria
friends.
for
yeah, to eat. Okay.
A las 3 de la tarde, él regresa a su casa, descansa un poco y a las 5 de la tarde, Francisco va al gimnasio. Francisco regresa a su casa a las 7 de la tarde. Hace su tarea, ve un poco la televisión y se duerme a las 10:30 de la noche.
Okay, let's stop it there. We had hardly any reflexive till way at the end. At 3,
Duerme.
he returns home. He
Duermes.
rests a little bit. He takes a break. And at 5, he goes to the
Gym.
gym. He returns home at 7,
Seven.
does his homework. Hace su tarea, does his homework.
Watches
Ve.
a
A little
Watch
TV.
TV.
Watches a little TV. And now I've got se duerme.
Goes
Not
He goes
just,
to bed.
well, it implies goes to bed, but it doesn't mean goes to bed.
Was a
He
Fall asleep.
falls
Falls asleep.
He falls asleep. Duerme is he sleeps. Duerme. Se duerme is he falls
Falls asleep.
asleep. Notice how it changed the meaning from sleeps. He sleeps at 10:30. Well, you're right. It does imply goes to bed. It implies that. But the verb itself is se duerme.
Falls
He
asleep.
falls asleep at
Okay.
10:30. So maybe he goes to bed at 10, but he reads in bed for half an hour, right? Se duerme, he falls asleep. Okay.
Hola, me llamo Alberto y vivo en Ciudad de México. Trabajo en una estación de radio. Amo mi trabajo porque todos los días son diferentes. Cada día de la semana, yo me levanto a las 4:30 de la mañana, porque el programa comienza a las 6 de la
Oh, hang
mañana.
on. Un minuto. Wow.
Cada día de la semana, yo me levanto a las 4:30 de la mañana, porque el programa comienza a las
Oh,
6
wow. No, that did that by itself. Okay. So we've got, now he's talking about himself. So it's hola, me llamo, but just vivo, because vivo doesn't need a reflexive. I don't live myself. I just live, right? Trabajo, I just work, right? Amo, I love, well, he didn't use encanta, he used amo. Okay. But me levanto, and he happened to throw in the yo, but he doesn't have to.
I get up.
He's just being
Yep.
kind of emphatic by throwing in the yo.
I get up.
Okay.
4:30.
I get up, right? I get up at 4:30 because the program starts, and
At
program
6.
starts is not reflexive because it doesn't need to be. Okay.
de la mañana.
Momentito.
Cada día de la semana, yo me
This does
levanto
kind of an abrupt
a
leap
las
here.
4:30 de la mañana,
Napping.
porque el programa comienza
You
a
get
las
up,
6 de la mañana.
I get
Yo me
myself.
you get
despierto,
out.
me baño, me visto y salgo de mi casa a las 5:30 de la mañana. Generalmente, yo no tomo el autobús y mi trabajo está muy cerca.
Okay, bien. Me despierto, I
Wake up,
Wake up.
Get up, yeah.
me baño,
wash, take a
I
bath,
wash up, right?
bathe,
Me visto,
put on
Dress.
clothes, get dressed,
I get dressed, y salgo, no more
Leave.
reflexive. I
leave the
leave.
house.
Leaves the house.
Salgo is one of those odd verbs. It's from salir,
Salir.
but it gets a go for the yo form. It just does. It's odd only for yo. All the other forms of salir don't use a G, just that one. Salgo. I leave, meaning I walk out of. I leave my house at 5:30. Tomo el autobús. That's not reflexive. What do you take? You take the bus. Tomo el autobús. Mi trabajo está muy cerca. My work is nearby. It just is located in an area that's not far off. Okay.
Los viernes, yo regreso a mi casa a las 3 de la tarde. Yo miro la televisión o leo un libro. Más tarde, salgo con mis amigos a tomar una cerveza. A veces estoy muy cansado
Oh, bye.
y no salgo.
Wow.
Salgo con mis
Okay.
amigos a tomar una cerveza. A veces estoy muy cansado
Y no salgo. Wow, they're doing another abrupt jump here. So let's take a look at that. On Fridays, he means every single Friday. Los viernes, Fridays,
He comes back home.
I
to-
return.
I come home at 3. And now instead of using veo, he happened to switch to the verb miro. Okay. I watch TV or I
Read a book.
read a book. Más tarde, later,
Later on.
salgo.
With my
Leave.
friend.
Go out with friends.
Right. And notice when it's salgo de, it means you're leaving a place. Salgo de is leaving a place. But salgo con means I'm going
Going
out.
out with.
Yeah. So you probably don't say I leave with my friends. You probably say I go out with my friends. Salir means both to leave a place, leave a location. And salir also means to go out with people.
Drink a
Salgo con.
beer.
And yeah, see, to have a beer, to drink a beer. A veces, oh, we've got a frequency word.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
I'm
Too
tired.
tired.
I'm very tired, y no salgo, and I don't go
Don't go.
out. Right?
Mm.
You wouldn't say I don't leave. You would say I don't go
Don't
out,
go out.
meaning I stay home, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got next.
A veces estoy muy cansado.
Y no salgo.
Y
And
no
they cut him
salgo.
off.
Los sábados por la mañana yo me levanto un poco tarde, a las 10:30 am. Yo desayuno y voy al supermercado. En la noche yo voy al cine o al teatro.
Wow, okay.
El-
Well, there wasn't as much to
Yo voy
see
al
there.
cine.
They just have me levanto, right? So we'll let that one go by. Oh, perdón. So many, many examples of reflexives. Let's get to our meatier one. Okay. El domingo.
Cine o al teatro. El domingo yo voy a la casa de mis padres. Ellos viven en Ciudad de México también. Nosotros desayunamos juntos y a veces mi hermana llega a la casa de mis padres. Ella tiene 2 hijos. Me encanta jugar con mis sobrinos. Los domingos yo me acuesto a las 9 de la noche.
Okay, let's stop that there. Wow, okay. Now he's telling what his routine is on Sunday. El domingo. Yo voy a la casa de mis padres. I go to my
Parents' house.
parents' house. And now,
They live in
no
a-
reflexive, just where they live.
They
They
live
live
in
in Mexico
Mexico
City.
City also.
Also, they live there too. Okay, that's where I live. That's where they live. Desayunamos juntos. Juntos
We-
means all
we
together.
breakfast
together.
We eat breakfast together.
together.
We need 2 words, eat breakfast, right? We eat breakfast together. Y a veces, sometimes,
Sometime.
My sister
My
arrived
sister.
my
at
sister
my-
arrives,
at my
or
parents'
at my
you'd probably
parents'
say she
house.
comes to,
Come.
right?
Mm.
Yeah.
She arrives at my parents' house. Ella tiene 2 hijos.
She has 2
Yes,
boys.
2 children.
She has
Yes,
2
2
kids.
boys.
Me encanta jugar con mis
I love-
sobrinos.
I love to play with
Love to
my
play with
nephew.
I love playing. I love to play with
Play.
my, sobrinos, nephews and nieces.
nephews.
Others.
Nieces and nephews, sobrinos are nephews, but it might be a mixed group, right? Nephew and niece. Los
So
domingos,
nieces is also sobrinos or sobrinos?
sobrina would be a niece,
Yeah, okay.
but if you have like, okay, dos, we don't really know from that statement. She might have a girl and a boy.
But 2
In which-
hijos, isn't it? Hijos is a son.
Hijos does mean son, but it also means children.
Oh,
So because she doesn't name them, we don't really know. Oh, she has 2 kids. We
okay.
don't really know. It might be a boy and a girl. It might be 2 boys. We don't name them, so we don't really know. Hijos can mean children. Hijos can mean sons, both.
Hmm.
So depende. If she's only got 2 girls, we would know right away because it would be dos hijas.
Yes, yeah.
So if she has 2 girls, we would know right away because that has to become a feminine form. But hijos might be boy, girl. It might be 2 boys. No importa, doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. Los domingos, yo me acuesto. Now it's what I do to myself. I go
bed.
to
I go to
bed.
bed.
Me acuesto. Me acuesto. I go to
Acuesto.
bed. At 9, no decent Mexican goes to bed at 9 unless they're ill.
He gets up at 4:30.
They're well, there you
That's
go.
right.
You know what? You're just thinking about sitting down to dinner at 9 o'clock. That's the way their schedule works. Wow. Okay, they did this for an American audience. We don't even go to bed at 9. Okay, maybe because it's at 4 a.m. Yeah.
Years old.
Me llamo Rodrigo. Vivo en Chihuahua y tengo 27 años. Todos los días me despierto a las 7 a.m. y generalmente encuentro a mi esposa ya despierta, leyendo noticias en su computadora en la cama.
Ah, bien. Okay, this throws a couple of curveballs at you. Me llamo Rodrigo, reflexivo. Vivo, no es reflexivo. Tengo 27 años, no es reflexivos. Me despierto. I
Wake up,
wake up.
wake up.
Encuentro a mi esposa ya despierta. Here's where they throw you a little bit of a curveball. Encuentro means I find. I find my wife. And now, despierta is not a verb. It's talking about what state she's in. It's a description of what state wifey is in. Encuentro a mi esposa. I find my wife. There's the verb.
Wake.
Is already up,
Already up.
Oh,
Already awake.
right?
Ya despierta means already awake. I find my wife
Yeah,
already awake. Awake. Despierta means awake. It's not what she's doing, it's the state she's in. Ya despierta, already awake. Doing what? Leyendo,
Reading the newspaper
reading
on her
news
computer
on her
in the bedroom.
computer, in bed. Okay.
Me levanto de inmediato. Voy al baño. Luego me preparo el desayuno. A mi esposa no le gusta comer temprano. Yo desayuno y miro la computadora al mismo tiempo. Leo nuevas publicaciones en blogs y reviso mis sitios web favoritos.
Bien. Okay, let's take a look at that. Me levanto de inmediato. I get up right
Immediately.
away. He's one of those fast waker-uppers. Voy al baño. Me preparo. Me preparo el desayuno. I
Makes
prepare breakfast
For me,
for myself.
for me, yeah.
So he's implying here, I'm fixing breakfast just for this one person, not for everybody else. So he throws that in, and we can change that to say I do it for myself, me preparo, okay? So some people might do that. Desayuno, miro a la computadora, I eat breakfast, I look at the computer at the same time, al mismo tiempo, leo nuevas publicaciones en blogs, I read new publications, new postings, new postings on blogs, reviso, I check out. Revisar is to revise, to check out as it, not check out in the supermarket, right? But, check it out. I check out my favorite websites. Okay.
A las 8 a.m. puedo hacer ejercicio durante media hora y luego bañarme. Si no hago ejercicio, estudio un poco de francés en la computadora. Los idiomas son mi hobby. En este momento aprendo francés y alemán. Me encantan las mañanas y me gusta tener un par de horas en casa antes de ir a trabajar.
Okay, and let's stop it there. We're going to take a look at that because we got to remind ourselves that me won't always be reflexive. It might just mean doing something to me. So you're starting to see a variety of things getting tied together here. At 8 o'clock, I can do exercise. I can work out for half an hour, durante media hora. And later, take a bath, bañarme. Not conjugated, because I can work out, I can take a bath. So bañarme is not conjugated, but I do, because I'm talking about myself, I have to express that as bañarme instead of bañarse, right? So even when it's not conjugated, you're going to see those reflexives using that proper pronoun, depending on who it's talking about. Si no hago ejercicio, if I don't work out, estudio un poco, I study a little, I study a little French. And he talks about languages being his hobby. I'm learning French and German. And now we've got a not reflexive. And we know it's not reflexive because the me doesn't match up with a yo verb. It won't always mean reflexive. Me encantan las mañanas. I love mornings. Mornings are delightful to me. Me encantan las mañanas. Me gusta tener un par de horas. I love to have, or I like to have a couple of hours. Un par, a pair of hours, a couple of hours. En casa. At home before going to work. Okay, we're going to stop it there. I'm going to give you the link so you can watch the last 3 minutes and listen to that. We're going to take a look instead at some storytelling. Aquí, where we actually talk about other people. We're not going to talk about ourselves. We're going to talk about other people exclusively here. So in the reading, you heard them flipping back and forth. We're going to talk about, I do have to put share screen back on. ¿Qué hace cada mañana? What does this person do every day? Now we're not talking about yo, we're talking about her, some anonymous lady. La mujer, the woman. La mujer. La mujer, ¿cómo se dice she wakes up?
Despertarse.
Right, despertarse. So how would I say she wakes up?
Ella se
Se
despierta.
despierta. Se despierta. Se despierta a las 8. We can say this in 8 o'clock. Se despierta a las 8. Now she does what? She's rising.
Levantarse.
Se levanta. Se levanta. And what does she do next?
Se
ducha.
Se ducha. What does she do next?
Se
Peñar.
Se peina. Se peina. Se peina. You might say se cepilla if she has a brush instead of a comb. Se peina. And now there are a few ways we might express this, not just one. You might use a few different verbs. You might se viste or se pone la ropa. She puts on clothes. So I have different verbs that talk about get dressed, put on, or gets ready. I can say se viste. Really easy, right? Se pone. Se pone la ropa, she puts on clothes, right? Se pone la falda, she puts on a skirt. Se pone la blusa, she puts on a blouse. Se pone la ropa. Se pone la ropa, she puts on clothing. I can even just say, se arregla, she gets herself ready. Literally, she gets herself arranged. Se arregla. But se viste, the most common, probably, she gets dressed. Okay. Ooh, reflexive or not?
No.
No. I could say, what about this picture?
Ella vive.
Toma, sí, bebe. Toma café. Desayuna, she has breakfast. Toma café, desayuna. Now we got reflexive.
Se cepilla.
Se cepilla los dientes. In Mexico, they like to say se lava los dientes. Either one is acceptable. Would this be reflexive, whatever they're doing?
Trabaja.
Trabaja. Oh, wait a minute. What if I want to talk about there, all sitting down? Ah,
Ajá.
Se sienten.
Nos sentamos.
se sientan.
Sientan.
Se sientan. But I could use a bunch of verbs here because you may interpret this picture a bunch of different ways. Se sientan, se sientan en la oficina. Se sientan en la oficina. They sit down in the office. Oh, or I might say, trabajan, they're working. Okay, bien. Okay. There are many things I might say here. I might say she's putting on a jacket.
Se pone un
Se,
chaqueta.
se pone la chaqueta. Se pone la chaqueta.
Ejercicio.
Porque hace ejercicio no es reflexivo. Se pone la chaqueta porque hace ejercicio, porque hace yoga. Bien. Practica yoga. Bien. Okay. Bien. She goes to bed. Not falls asleep, goes to bed.
Acosta.
Se acuesta. Se acuesta. And then she falls asleep.
Se duerme.
Se duerme. Bien, se duerme. ¿Ok? Bien. Ok, muy bien. What I am going to do for you to prep for conversation time next week, because we're going to take you a little step further. I'm going to give you a list, which I'll send you in the email, of all different activities. Some are going to be reflexive, some not. I want you to pick out things and tell what time you do them. I mean, you're actually going to have some leeway. Some will be reflexive, some will not. You might want to say you always do something at a certain time. You might want to say you sometimes do this action in the morning, but sometimes you don't. But I'm going to give you a set of activities, and I want you each to kind of figure out what time, or tell us a little something about what you do with waking up, or maybe the kind of clothing you put on. Okay, so mix it up a little bit. I'll give you a list of about, I think, maybe 6 verbs, maybe 7. And you'll talk about what you do with your own routine through the day. Bien? Good? See?
Sí.
Okay, you're going to be using all your forms with those. Okay. And the last thing we're going to leave off with is something that is, okay, we're going to kind of dance around this. I'm not getting quite as far as I wanted to, but I'm getting pretty close. A lot of these verbs, I'm going to do this on a share screen with you. A lot of these verbs, you're kind of getting the feel for, it's an action I do to myself in my daily routine. Some verbs are just going to be reflexive, just are. And they don't necessarily get translated with the idea of I do it to myself. But making them reflexive changes the meaning a little bit. Okay. I'm going to give you some examples. And I'm going to give you some examples of when this happens a lot. Ir versus irse. Ir means to go, but irse is go away, or like we might say, take off. Wait a minute, irse, I don't go to myself. If people use irse, and they do quite a lot, it conveys the idea of go away or take off. Me voy. Me voy. People will just use me voy. Well, I'm taking off, right? People leave the office for the day. Me voy. You leave the house to go to work, or you leave the house to go to the supermarket. Me voy. I'm going. Me voy. It's like saying away, or I'm taking off. I'm getting out of here. The reflexive changes ir a little bit. People may ask, dedicarse. They're asking what you do for a living. And here's the question. ¿A qué te dedicas? What do you dedicate yourself to? Holy cow, that sounds really formal. ¿A qué te dedicas? They're just asking what your job is. And when you answer that question, you might say me dedico, you might. Me dedico a enseñar español. You might just say, it's more likely, you might just say, soy maestra, soy ingeniero, right? More likely you're going to respond with just a soy, I am, and what your job is. But the question may be asked as, ¿a qué te dedicas? And then they're saying, what do you do? What do you devote yourself to professionally? So dedicarse, it doesn't look like it should be reflexive, but oddly enough, it is. And I'm going to throw one more extra thing at you. This verb of sentirse, to feel a certain way. Bien, okay. And I don't feel myself. I feel a certain way, right? And we'll check this out in a little more detail next week. But, por ejemplo, me siento bien. I feel. Me siento bien.
I feel well.
Me siento bien. I feel well. I feel pretty good, right? You might want to talk about your emotional state, right? Me siento contenta. I feel happy. You might say you're feeling a little down. Me siento un poco triste. I gotta expand my screen a little bit. Me siento un poco triste. I'm feeling a little down. Me siento un poco triste. Me siento un poco triste. So to feel, and obviously it's not like the cepillarse los dientes. It's not like that at all. So some verbs, in other words, I'm trying to show you to dip our toe into this a little bit. Some verbs will just be reflexive, even though it strictly doesn't follow that format of a daily routine. So be advised of that. When we're throwing some of these three special ones out there, so that you dip your toe into that. Irse, to take off, right, to go away. Dedicarse, to talk about somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? And you might not throw the me dedico into the answer at all. You might just say soy with you know, your profession. And sentirse, the way you feel, okay? So get used to that sometimes reflexive won't follow that daily routine kind of rule all the time. Some verbs just are reflexive, okay? Okay. Bien, we're good so far? I'm gonna, yeah, kind of, yeah. Es un poquito incómodo. It's a little bit uncomfortable. I know, just say. I'm gonna throw one of those three into your list of little things for conversation so that you just dip your toe into the water. You're just gonna dip your big toe in. Not even the whole foot, but you know, something that, and I'm going to do it with something that, you know, people would be likely to talk about. So, okay, ¿está bien? We're good?
Sí, sí.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the rest of those two websites to practice around. They're going to throw some kind of hard verbs in there, so just go with the flow. But, you know, see how it goes. I'm going to give you the rest of that listening story, so you finish up the last, I think it was 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm going to give you some questions that you come back in to practice some reflexives, talking in smaller groups. Bien?
Sí, bien.
Ok, vale. Y sigan por favor leyendo. Please keep reading. Read one more chapter of your little novela. Ok, ¿está bien?
Sí, está bien.
Magnífico. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question?
Good. No, we're
No?
still trying
Okay.
to digest.
Well, it is. And it's normal. That's normal. Es muy normal. That is very, very normal. Okay. But I'm going to poco a poco, little by little, start to introduce some situations where we use this reflexive, and it usually is going to be a routine, but once in a while I'll throw one little thing in. Okay. ¿Todo bien?
Bien.
Todo bien. Ok, entonces nos vemos el lunes. I'll see you guys again on Monday. Bien. Que tengan, may you have, que tengan una semana fantástica. Bien.
Bien.
Gracias.
Ok. Vale.
Gracias.
Hasta luego.
Gracias.
De nada, de nada.